Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered who you really are, beyond the name you were given, beyond the life you know? What if one day you discovered an entire world within you, a hidden story calling to you with an overwhelming force, compelling you to question every bond, every love, every certainty? Tell me, from what city are you joining us on this emotional journey? And have you ever felt the pull of your roots so powerfully that it made you reconsider your own path? Today's story is a journey into the heart of identity, a narrative that explores the depths of filial love and the painful choices we are sometimes forced to make. Emily Johnson had always felt a small piece missing from the puzzle of her life. She grew up in a loving home in Austin, Texas, with Mark and Susan Johnson, the only parents she had ever known. They gave her everything: a diligent education, summer vacations, piano lessons, and unconditional support for every one of her teenage dreams. She was an intelligent, popular young woman with a promising future in college. However, in moments of stillness, a subtle melancholy would wash over her. Her Asian features, an inheritance from a distant and unknown land, often made her feel like an exotic flower in an American garden. She loved Mark and Susan with a deep and sincere tenderness, but the question, "Where do I come from?" resonated within her like a persistent echo. Can the love of adoptive parents completely fill the void of unknown origins? Or is there a part of our identity that can only be healed by encountering our biological roots? At 18, before starting college, Emily decided to join a heritage tour program for young adoptees from China. Mark and Susan, though with a knot of apprehension in their stomachs they tried to hide, supported her. They had always been open about her adoption, letting her know that if she ever wanted to search for her biological family, they would help. They never imagined how far that search would take her, nor the heartbreaking turn their lives would take. The trip was a revelation for Emily. China embraced her with an overwhelming familiarity. The smells of spices in the markets, the murmur of Mandarin in the streets, landscapes that seemed to come from forgotten dreams. And then, the miracle happened, or what at first seemed to be one. Through orphanage archives and the organization's help, they found her biological family in a small village in Hunan province. Their names were Zhang Wei and Li Na, and they had another daughter, a few years younger than Emily, or Xiao Feng as they had named her at birth. The reunion was a whirlwind of emotions that shook Xiao Feng to her core. Seeing Li Na was like looking into a mirror that reflected not only her face but also gestures and expressions she had always believed were uniquely hers. Zhang Wei, her biological father, hugged her with a strength that spoke of years of silent pain and contained hope. They told her the story of her abandonment, extreme poverty, the strict family planning policies of the time, the heartbreaking decision to leave her in a place where they hoped she would have a chance to survive, with a promise to look for her if their circumstances ever improved. They cried together, laughed nervously, and Xiao Feng felt an instant connection, a sense of belonging she had never experienced with such intensity before. It was as if a long-closed door in her soul had suddenly burst open, flooding her with a new, blinding light. Is it possible for a biological bond, unknown for years, to suddenly eclipse the ties forged through daily love and upbringing? While Xiao Feng immersed herself in this new world, back in Texas, Mark and Susan awaited news with anxious hearts. Emily's first calls were full of amazement and joy about the discovery. But gradually the tone changed. There was a growing distance, a fascination with her new family that was beginning to be tinged with something more. Then came the video call that would shatter their lives. Emily, or rather Xiao Feng as she asked to be called, informed them of her decision. With eyes glistening with tears, but with firm resolution, she told them she had decided to stay in China. That she had found her place, her true family, her identity. That although she was grateful to them for everything, she felt her destiny was there, with the Zhangs. For Mark and Susan, the words were like knives. Initial shock gave way to painful disbelief, and then to an anguish that consumed them. How could this be? How could their Emily, the girl they had cradled, taught to ride a bike, consoled in her sorrows, make such a decision? They felt erased, as if 18 years of love and dedication had meant nothing. Xiao Feng's description of her connection with the Zhangs, the way she spoke of blood and roots, felt alien and deeply hurtful to them. They tried to reason, to plead, to understand. Didn't she realize the pain she was causing them? Was this a betrayal, an act of teenage selfishness, or something much deeper and more complex that they couldn't comprehend? What would you feel if a child you have loved unconditionally made a decision that so radically excluded you from their life? We would very much like to read your perspectives in the comments. Details of the life Xiao Feng was beginning to embrace in China reached Mark and Susan through sporadic and painfully formal emails. Her new sister, May, adored her. Her biological parents treated her like a long-lost princess, found again. She was learning Mandarin at an astonishing speed, helping with a small family business, eagerly absorbing customs and traditions. In her messages, Xiao Feng tried to explain that it wasn't a rejection of them, but an affirmation of herself, of the Xiao Feng who had been dormant within her. She spoke of an awakening, of a feeling of being complete for the first time. But for Mark and Susan, every word was a confirmation of their loss. The demand didn't come from a biological mother this time, but from their daughter's own heart, a heart that seemed to have closed itself to them. The mystery of her decision deepened with each passing day. What had Xiao Feng seen? What had she felt in that Hunan village that had transformed her so profoundly? Perhaps it was the story of her biological parents' struggle, the sacrifice visible in their weathered hands, the way the community welcomed her as one of their own without question. Perhaps it was the simple, powerful revelation of seeing herself reflected in her family's faces, of finally understanding where her almond-shaped eyes, the shape of her smile, her innate talents came from. The cultural connection was immediate and total. She felt Chinese, profoundly Chinese, in a way she had never felt American. The subtleties of filial piety, the weight of the extended family, the rhythm of a more communal life, it all resonated with her. For Mark and Susan, the American culture in which they had raised Emily valued individuality, yes, but also loyalty and cultivated emotional bonds. They couldn't understand how their daughter could so easily dismiss 18 years of shared love. They wondered if they had failed in some way, if they hadn't given her enough, if they had somehow unknowingly sown the seed of her departure. Guilt mingled with pain and anger. Would they simply have to accept that they had lost their daughter forever? The climax of this stage arrived when Xiao Feng informed them that she would not be returning to the United States, not even for a visit, in the foreseeable future. She needed, she said, to consolidate her new life without the confusions of the past. The word rejection was never uttered by her, but it resonated in every silence, in every excuse. For Mark and Susan, it was a final sentence. Now we come to the hardest part of this story. Where is the hope? Where is the inspiration in such a heartbreaking tale? Perhaps catharsis lies not in a happy reconciliation, but in the acceptance of a painful truth. Hope, faint and fragile, might lie in the possibility that Xiao Feng, by following her heart's call, finds authentic peace, even if the cost is immense for those who love her in America. Inspiration might arise from the raw honesty of this situation, which forces us to reflect on the complex nature of identity, the undeniable power of origins for some people, and the fact that not all adoption and reunion stories have fairy tale endings. For Mark and Susan, the path is one of grief. They have lost their daughter in a way they never imagined. Perhaps, with time, the acute pain will transform into a more bearable sadness, and perhaps, just perhaps, they might come to understand, even if they don't share Xiao Feng's choice. Hope for them might be to find a new way to live, carrying the love for Emily in their hearts, even though she has chosen another path. Xiao Feng, for her part, has chosen her truth. She has embraced an identity she feels is her own, finding solace and belonging in the arms of her biological family and her ancestral culture. Her path will not be without challenges. The shadow of the family she left behind, the knowledge of the pain she caused, will surely accompany her. But in her choice, there is a brave, though controversial, affirmation of following her own destiny. This story confronts us with the reality that love sometimes doesn't conquer all, or at least not in the way we expect. It shows us that roots can pull with surprising force, and that the search for identity can lead to heart-wrenching decisions. There are no easy answers here. Only the complexity of the human being, the mystery of belonging, and the eternal echo of the question, Who am I, and where is my home? What do you think? Can a person have two homes? Or are there times when a choice must be made, however painful? Share your reflections with us. Subscribe to continue exploring the depths of the human soul. Here on Souls of China.